for story time?
Let's do it.
Yeah. Oh, I just got beer on the mic. Son of a bitch. It's good.
I mean, is it going to make it stop working? Or
I don't know.
okay?
We'll find out. All right. We're welcome. No puns allowed.
No puns allowed.
Jesus.
2021-2022 season finale.
Lot to get to.
Yes.
Adam and Paige, before we talk about the game, Paige,
Yes.
I have to talk about my drive home from Indianapolis.
Yes, because you sent me a text message
We have
later
not
in the
talked
day on
about
our
this.
return home. Yeah, and I'm like, are you all right? So please, the floor is yours to tell this story.
Well, this is good. This is a new one. So, all right. So, Indy, first of all, wonderful time, minus the drive. Paige and I were there. We'll get to all the games, the recaps, the beers. There was a lot of beers. National championship and the shrimp cocktail. But I turn out of the hotel, right? Getting ready to go home. It's been a long weekend. Do a little U-turn. There's a truck in front of me that's stopping to take down signage for the playoff because it was all over Indy. Right? They spend their budget for signs has got to be like $8 billion. And it's a little herky-jerky, and I'm trying to get over. I can't get over, right? So I'm kind of stop and go, but I see the guy. All of a sudden, boom, smash right into back of my dad car SUV, right? Like, boom. Like, I'm sore today, day later, right? We're recording this day later. So,
Yeah.
pull over. Guy was super nice, by the way. Like, don't be a dick in those situations. Nobody wants to get hit. I haven't been hit in a while. I'm okay, right? Info. So my bumper's all screwed up. Every time I back up my fucking car right now, the sensor like overlaps, so it hears like the giant beep. So I put it in reverse right now. It just beeps.
It just beeps.
That's not a good feeling. That is not a good feeling. So, all right. So I'm like, you know what? All right. I'm okay. I'm all right, right? It's a good weekend. I'm going to get on the car. Get on the highway. Boom. Hour in. Standstill traffic. Like it was like stopped. Trying to figure out what's going on Google. Clearly an accident. So I was in about a 2.5. It took me normally 3.5 hours. I'll get to why it was a standhill because it's the most interesting part. It took me about 7 hours to get home. Drive.
Lord.
And it turns out 2 semis had got into an accident. I hope everybody's okay. It looked like hopefully everybody was okay. One of them looked to be full of Mountain Dew cans. So there were green Mountain Dew, I believe Mountain Dew cans like scattered all over the highway. Like
Oh no.
that was my delay. So
Mountain Dew.
fender bender, Mountain Dew
Mountain
delay.
Dew.
Made it home. And now I'm here talking to you drinking this beer. But outside of that, what a awesome venue. What a fun time. What were your thoughts on Indy other than it's cold? I'll break that one like out for you. You don't need to say that.
Well, I experienced sleet for the first time. That was something. I do have a video of Adam waddling on the sidewalk, so I will post that at some point in time.
Okay, first and foremost.
To be fair, we didn't know it was going to be sleeting until we're like, oh shoot, it's sleeting. So our other writer who was there, David Kenyon, he lives near you and is used to that and was like sliding on it, having a good time. And I was like, I'm like walking literally with my hands like out because I'm like, okay, don't slip, don't break your tailbone, don't put your arms down if you fall, like just like take the fall. Like in my head, I'm trying to get it. I was not wearing the proper shoes for that. But overall, it was a fun city. We had a lovely dinner at Harry
Yes.
Nizzy's. That was a highlight for sure. Wine was had. It was actually very comical. I was talking to someone about the trip, and I was like, honestly, Adam's just like a bad influence on me because Kramer can like drink, and I think no, in the best way possible. That was how I followed up. I said, Adam is a bad influence on me in the best way possible because I'll be like, all right, I can have another. And for someone who had taken a break for like 2 weeks, which sounds really bad, by the way. 2 whole weeks I didn't have alcohol. But no, we had a great time. It was really fun. It's always a fun time getting to meet people you're like friends with over the internet.
I agree.
Like that's one of the weirdest parts about this whole thing is like you know these people, but you don't actually know them in person. So getting to meet some of the people that we've known for years on the internet. You've gotten to meet a lot more people than I have over the last couple of years, but
and most of them are awesome, with the exception of one. And I'm not going to name that person, but you know who I'm talking about, right?
I know exactly what you're talking about. It takes. I will say, I've known you for a long time. It takes a lot for you to dislike someone, like a lot, and you have never really have a bad thing to say about anyone. This particular person was just not. I mean, I honestly,
and it wasn't even directed to me. No. I just how you treat people. Be nice to people. That's all I'm going to say.
Be nice to people.
By the way, I will say, we missed the director's cut, like forcing. I wouldn't say this tastes pretty good actually. Like I'm feeling better now. But I was not excited to crack a beer tonight and drink it on the pod. But it is my duty to do this.
Yeah.
But it's not going down great.
I failed the people because I wasn't recording right away. And usually I hit record pretty early just because I know we're going to say something. And I said down to him, I was like, I can't drink. And he was like, I have a duty to everyone. And I was like, that's fair. You know what? Dedicated to the pod. Dedicated to the pod.
It's good, but it is. I need a little time to gather myself physically. Yes. But
my voice is like a little raspy from like talking so much. People are thinking it's not from the alcohol. Trust me, it's from talking a lot. I feel
and I think so. You've mentioned like meeting. So we had not done this in like 2 years. Like I went to that. Mm-hmm. I went to Illinois, Nebraska earlier this year, which feels like it was 8 years ago. But what I forgot is how damn long that night is. That championship night is like it's long. And the 8 o'clock, 8:20 kick. I think I got a bet. I know. I mean, we were finishing a story, but it was 4:30, and then I can't sleep. I can't sleep. I'm so charged up, and that game like was a tough one to cover because you don't know what the hell is going to happen. Genuinely, and it was a fun one to watch. But like, before we get into the actual game, like that night is always a bit of a shit show emotionally because you're like, no alcohol involved at all. Unlike the previous days, you're right. It's a long day leading up to it, and it's an even longer night. Like it's a really weird day to get your pacing right.
It is. It's a very strange thing. And I was going to mention that when you were saying about your drive home. I was like, this is also after like being up until 4 a.m. writing.
Yep.
And trying to get all of that. It's just, I mean, we didn't leave the stadium until like 1:30, I think.
Yeah.
And we walked back and like, I mean, it was pretty crazy
went to the hospitality.
Yeah.
Grabbed 2 beers, went upstairs to finish, right?
Yeah. It's definitely like a weird night because you also feel like, because also you and I had like 10 cups of coffee in the press box, which probably wasn't the best idea. I was like, I told you, the other part of this is the underrated amount of cookies that I had because I was just so antsy for the game. Like, I needed it to just start. Because the other part of this, too, is, like, not only am I working with you to decide on something, I'm working with David to decide on a topic. I'm working with another writer, Brad. And so I'm just, like, wanting there to be things to discuss, and there's just not because this game was so brutal. But we can sort of get into that now.
Yeah.
Congratulations to the Georgia Bulldogs. Congratulations to their fans. Congratulations to Adam Kramer on getting richer. I am going to formally apologize to them for not believing in it. I'm still never going to bet against Nick Saban. But I will say it was kind of a very cool thing to see. History be made. Those fans had waited a really long time. The videos on social media of fans like crying. Like I saw one where it was like, didn't cry at our wedding, didn't cry when any of our kids were born, sobbing hysterically because Georgia won. And yeah, I will say that. I will say I had a not so great encounter with a Georgia fan after the game. But you know what? We will let that slide because there was a lot of drinks flowing. Yes.
Was that post like
Yeah, I was on the phone and I had said, and they were near me and I was like, I hope, going back to our hotel, I was like, oh my gosh, I hope the Georgia fans are like asleep by now because like I'm tired, I'm ready to go to bed, whatever. And this guy was like, are you an Alabama fan? And I was like, oh no. I was like, no. But there was no convincing him otherwise, which is fair because also if you know me, like as Some people, I also have to say thank you to the people that reached out that thought I was just going to be like absolutely traumatized by this loss. There were a lot of people in my DMs being like, sorry your team lost. And I'm like, all right, well, that's fair. I'm more upset about my pocket. But
not as traumatized as the two guys covering Georgia at the game would have been had the team lost.
Yes.
Shout out to those guys, whoever you are, that were covering the game, narrating every single play happening, and at an uncomfortable volume. And then that was a press box experience. I don't want to get into that either because I'm gonna be nice. But yes, also on Georgia fans, like they dominated that fucking city from start to finish. Like when we would go out, they're calling the dog. I mean, they're doing all sorts of shit like in that. Like
we experienced the calling of the dogs at least 3 times, at least in a public place.
It was wild. I mean, they were Georgia fans. Y'all showed up. Like, and you know what? And I got to say, Kirby's comments after the game. There's gonna be some property torn up, like just inciting like public destruction. Amazing. Okay.
I'm happy that also that Indianapolis is like shut down by 2:00 because it seemed when we left it seemed pretty mellow in terms of things, in terms of like celebrating.
I got into our elevator, so I went to the hospitality back at the hotel, grabbed 2 beers, went upstairs, and it was with me and a bunch of tired sports writers. Everybody's tired. It's a long day, and we're in the elevator. With a couple of drunk Georgia fans, and every time somebody walked in the elevator, he would pop out from the side and try and scare them. He'd, ah! And then like everyone just looks very tired and not scared. And he's like, "Are you guys goddamn Amish? What is wrong with you?" Like just yelling at us at like 3 in the morning, 2 in the morning, and it was like, I was on the 5th floor, and I'm just like, elevator. Please take me up
Get there
quickly. Yes, at that time, you are done with people. You are done with football. You are done with life. You're done with socializing.
You're done with everything.
You just need a room. But honestly,
that next morning was actually pretty telling in hospitality because I went down there to get coffee, and I was wearing a baseball hat and like sweats to get on my flight, and I went down there and there was maybe 3 souls in that whole hospitality, and it's definitely a long day and everyone's just like ready to get out of there. I thought last time it was just New Orleans, but I think it's really just that last day of like waiting all day long, all the anticipation, and then and then the game itself. But the game itself for 3 quarters was really, really boring.
Yeah,
I mean it was college football.
Yeah, I went back a little bit last night and watched it. I always like to do that because if you watch a game live and then which you see a lot more, obviously, there is no difference. God, I miss that. You see when someone's open, you see holding, you see when they're covered, but you also miss some stuff too. So the speed in that game is it was outrageous. Like just the little subtleties of like when Alabama's trying to get to the outside and you've got, Nakobe Dean is like one of the craziest dudes. Jets at 10, number 10 pick, like, let's go. I'm in. Like, just the athletes in that game was extraordinary. So, yes, there was a part of it. We're having the conversation in the press box, you and I, and it's like, all right, field goal fest. At first, it was kind of charming, and it was also like, wow, these defenses are good, and they are good. And then there's so much of it that you're like, all right, do something. And then they did. Like, they did something.
They did. The fourth quarter was wild.
So just looking back on that game, I mean, and also I got to say, like Jameson Williams tearing his ACL, that sucks.
We sort of all knew at that point that was probably it for Alabama. Like they did fine without him, and like there was potential for them to win, but like at that point there was only so much Bryce could do by himself. Not to say that there wasn't another 4-star or 5-star up next to help, but it's different. It's a completely different thing. It's a national championship. And Georgia's defense is just too good for that to happen, which was just wild. But, and also, I mean, now I have to learn Stetson Bennett's name and not call him Stenson. I just can't get that extra T. Stetson. The mailman.
Well, we'll talk about it a little bit, but I thought his comments about being back there was fascinating yesterday. Like, he did not commit to that. Like, and I don't know what, he's probably, intoxicated and doesn't want to be there. Like,
severely
so who knows?
Hungover. Also, we had this discussion. He is not someone that particularly loves doing the press stuff. Like, he doesn't, it sort of makes him uncomfortable.
No.
And I don't know if it's just because he's so tired of answering the same questions about him being, coming from, like, JUCO and things like that, and, like, having to do all of that, like, being the underdog and having to talk about that.
No, it's like he's deep in thought, like, when he's doing it, but he, like, doesn't get anywhere with it, and that's
no,
fine.
He doesn't articulate it very well.
No,
well, also,
no,
the next day, he was probably still drunk. He was drinking Pappies out of the bottle, which, by the way, that made me like him a little bit more. I was like, okay, I can handle this, dude, because the day before, we were like, he's not giving us anything. I don't know what's going on. But I think, like I said, I think he's just tired of having to answer these questions and just wants to enjoy the moment. I was particularly shocked by his performance. It wasn't great, obviously, until the end. It was the Twitter roller coaster was something on Stetson Bennett. Well, I'm sure there were a lot of drunk Georgia fans that deleted tweets.
His Good Morning America interview where he looked like that was amazing. Did you see that?
Where he looked like he had 15 beers and was like,
yes, like on the set. I mean, that was a tough ask for
it is.
Stetson
It's
Bennett.
not like Joe, which is funny because Joe Burrow handled it really, really well. And I hate to bring that up, but I mean, when
of course he did.
And we know he was enjoying his time in New Orleans. But he didn't say, like, officially if he's coming back to Georgia. Is that what you just said?
Yeah, he kind of just punted. Like, what are you going to do? You have another year of eligibility. And I think it's and so you guys know too with the pod, like, we're going to figure out how we want to space out content. We'll talk a little bit about what's next for kind of Georgia and Alabama, and then we're going to go into, like, the preseason or early, not even preseason, off season, top 25s, top fives. I'm excited about it. Actually, I started looking at stuff today. I did my yearly video.
Transfer portal things. We'll let it settle before we talk about anything because
I've got my top 5 already. I shot my video with the NCAA today, which is kind of funny. I was thinking about that they picked my guy, Kegs and Eggs. But I got some love from the NCAA too because I did pick Georgia in that very video last year.
Yes.
So for this one time, I look like I know what I'm doing. Now, probably not so much.
What did you say for next year for one?
I did not have to pick a winner, but I will do spoiler alert that Alabama was my number 1 team.
Okay.
Alabama was my number 1 team. But now, let me also, speaking of that, I have so many things in this game that I want to talk about, but I want to talk about Saban first. So I wrote a couple weeks ago, this is the best coaching job of his career. I still think that way, even though they lost. I still think you lose your 2 best wide receivers, not to mention to the draft Devonta Smith and Jalen Waddle and Mac Jones and Najee Harris and O-Lineman, Patrick Surtain. I'm going to keep talking about this because it's still wild to me when you look at it. You develop Bryce Young into a Heisman winner.
Yeah.
Will Anderson is superhuman. I mean, I think, he said to Kirby Smart at, midfield when they met, and I thought that was a really cool moment because he was smiling. He was genuinely happy. Like, you kicked our ass in the 4th quarter. And they did. Mm-hmm. Like, that was where we were talking about it in the press box. You never see Alabama, like, wilt. Like, you don't see Alabama, like, cave in. Alabama does the caving in, right? And yet, in the 4th quarter, Georgia's O-line and Georgia's D-line, Alabama didn't quit. It wasn't that. It's just Georgia became overwhelming. Georgia, like, Bryce Young, by the end, did not have a chance. And I thought that was fascinating because you don't see it. And yet, like, if you're an Alabama fan or you're Nick Saban, like, you're like, oh, my God, I can't. It's weird to say this about Alabama because they do it every year and it's supposed to be normal. Like, you should be really friggin' proud and pretty much in awe of your team's performance and getting that far. It was pretty amazing.
Well, and to your point about his coaching job this year, like, Alabama doesn't lose often. Nick Saban is not used to losing championships. No. Like, that's not his thing. More often than not, he's winning these. So to be on the losing side of it And then when Bryce and Will Anderson were sitting next to him after the game, and he
That was
said
awesome.
that this moment doesn't define them as players, and that he's super proud of them and they have a lot to be proud of, was just something that, like, one, we're used to him saying the right things, but I think in that particular moment, it was different than all of the other times because it was in defeat, because it was in, there was so much that happened this season, and he talked about how this year he sort of shifted his focus on this group to support them, and I think that we saw that firsthand, that, like, he knows that these two guys have a lot to be proud of, and the expectations for them are extremely high, for that program are extremely high, and that people are going to be upset. But, like, that wasn't all on them, and that's part of this whole thing, is that you're going to lose at some point. And like he said, if he's going to lose, he would rather lose to Kirby, and I thought that was really respectful. But yeah, I think it was cool to see, Georgia make history, but I think we're not going to see, it's not going to be the next dynasty. I hope we sit on them a little bit more and wait, and like, unlike we did with Clemson, not to say that they didn't deserve that, but I think they'll be there. I just think Nick's going to load up still. So,
well, I think seeing, I don't love, I like seeing greatness. I like it when Alabama wins. Honestly, it's cool to see this kind of dominance. Yeah, well, it was cool to see Georgia, but, like, when Saban loses, it's rare. It's cool to see him let his guard down, and it's just great leadership. Like, he pushes. Like, I remember when they beat, I think it was Notre Dame, one of the worst picks I've ever made. By the way, I picked Notre Dame to beat Alabama in the national championship, and I remember in the post game interview, he was still talking like how they have to be better, and like Kirk Herbstreit and everybody was laughing, where they're laughing because, like, this guy just won a national championship, and he's talking like how they didn't do, like, they need to be better. Yeah. Like, and it was kind of funny at the time. I remember thinking about that, like, oh my God, that's what you're up against. And he's
not
really,
that pick, but...
well, that was so bad. I still hear about that. Say I pick Georgia and then I do that. But I think when he loses, you see like a very unique side that is really cool, and like, look, we've done everything we can do. There's no more doing it. There's no sense in doing it now, because I just, again, it's like leadership 101. And I also think kind of like his reputation seems to be changing a bit. Like, I don't think people didn't dislike him, but you'd see like the sideline tirades, which was overblown, and you'd see him mad, and he makes it look so easy. And yet you see where he like holds back Bryce Young and Will Anderson to say a nice thing about him, when the kids were like despondent, by the way. I mean, they were like heartbroken. And
I have never seen Bryce Young look like that.
He looked like he was destroyed.
When he walked off the field, he was like legit being like held up, kind of. Like, it was not a pretty sight.
No, and so to see Saban really like take them under his wing and say like, and also now, like, I'm sure when they got home, he's probably talking to them like, all right, guys, let's go fuck some shit up next year. Like, now it's like, okay, we're gonna wear this one for 24 hours, and like, it's on.
Then we're
Well, so they're not going anywhere. Obviously, I mean,
Although I did tell you, did I not tell you that the conversation around the NFL rule that you have to for the draft, that was going to be our next conversation, and sure enough, Twitter yesterday was like, should Bryce Young and Will Anderson sit out a year? And shouldn't they change that rule if they were eligible to go this year? And I was like, oh my goodness, here we go.
They would probably be number 1 and number 2 in the draft.
Yeah, they would be. That's why it's incredible. And so much can happen in a year. It's pretty
amazing. And so,
no, it is.
But both of them are wired. I mean, I talked to Alabama people about this week, and they're like, yeah, right. Like, are you kidding?
Way.
Like, they're going to be pissed off. They're like ready for more. And so, and also, I guess while we'll just wrap up Bama and go to Georgia, because we got Georgia talking points. But, what does Jameson Williams do now? Right? Like, does he go? I think he'll probably go. Like, an ACL isn't what it used to be. So like, you've got these.
I think it says a lot about some of the Alabama players that have stayed the last couple of years. Like, even remember we talked about Najee, like the fact that he came back and was willing to do that.
Devonta Smith came back.
Yeah, there's like you said, they're wired differently there.
Well, and it's you can rehab in college, and I mean,
Yeah.
hey, whatever they do, but it's clear they're going to be returning a ton, and they're going to lose a ton too. They're going to lose Neal at O-line. They're going to welcome. I mean,
they've also
they
got
transfer
7 people.
portal.
I think they had 7 people in the transfer portal today.
Billingsley, I saw the tight end. That was pretty interesting because he was pretty good for them last year. He had a couple of rough sequences in the title game.
Yeah.
But Eli Ricks is going to be their best defensive back next year from LSU. They had the top running back like in the country. I mean, it's wild. This is Alabama.
Now,
right?
Looking forward for Georgia now.
Yeah.
We'll pivot to Georgia. Do you think Stetson?
I gotta give some love to Georgia real quick too before we go forward. Are you going future Georgia or current Georgia?
Future Georgia.
All right, let me just quick wax poetic. Jordan Davis, I had not seen that young man in person. That is incredible. Like, that is a wall of a man. I mean, I don't know where his draft stock will be, but I would love to first off, I'd love for him to just pick me up and like hold me over his head. And I'll bet he could do that.
That's
like just like a teddy bear, like a warm embrace.
Between him and Daniel Falele at Minnesota, those are the two that I just want like a big hug from. That's all I want.
Oh, this is nice. So my only other thing with Georgia, I'll say this is, like James Cook and Brock Bowers and Pickens and Bennett and all of these guys. Like, we talked about the defense a lot, but they've constructed that roster brilliantly. Like, it wasn't just like, it was cool to see all of these different pieces. Like, Brock Bowers was really quiet for a while, then he scored. James Cook was really quiet for a while, then he ran, had that huge run. So the defense like held up. And then the offense, and then of course Bennett, which I think, the other part I wanted to talk about this before we talk future is Kirby Smart. I wrote about this. You and I talked about this a lot at the game. That guy's eating a lot of shit. Guy would have eaten an enormous amount of shit had they lost. Sticking with Stetson Bennett, blowing another game, wasting a defense. I think it's really cool for a guy like that to have that moment, right? Like, especially against Nick Saban, who is like, that's it. It's the GOAT. It's the guy he knows. Like, that's a game that Georgia loses in the past.
Everything from that people forget.
I know. It's you didn't forget it.
I will not let anyone forget it.
This Georgia team, I don't know if it's an all-time team, but there's a shit ton of talent. It was fun to see the pieces work together.
The crazy part is people are like, is this the worst team to win a national championship? Or the worst offense, I should say, to win a national championship, which is like not fair to start up right now. Like, let's wait a little bit. And we can do power rankings later in the next couple of weeks on those. But no, I think one of the points that I was about to make was just that I wonder if Bennett didn't say anything because there is still the potential of Georgia getting a transfer quarterback.
Well,
and like at that point, what do you do? Because realistically speaking, the Stetson Bennett that we know is not going to get the chance to win another national championship, really. Like, I mean, in my opinion, what I watched for that entire game at its entirety, not just the highs, could have been, I mean, if you have a better option at that position, then you should make it. That's sort of a big deal.
Not only that, but they signed Brock Vandegrift, who's on the team, who we talked a lot about, JT Daniels. This was a legit 5-star, quarterback like a year ago. Like, this dude is awesome, like really, really good. And so I'm trying to find the exact quote because I want to make sure. And in the title here, Stetson Bennett hints at potential transfer portal.
But again, like, his stock's never been higher. Why doesn't he try? You know what I mean? Like, see what's out there. See who wants you. He's going to get paid, too. And then you don't have the pressure of what... And I also think... I mean, he's a Georgia guy. I know. Everyone's like, oh, lifetime Dogs fan. All of this. It's like, yeah, but that also comes with a lot of pressure and a lot of not fun stuff.
His answer What? Okay, this is from Fansided. I just pulled it up. When being interviewed on Good Morning America on Tuesday morning, where he was drunk as shit, they didn't write that part. I said that. Bennett was asked about his future, and his answer was quite noncommittal, highlighted most notably by him saying, "I'm going to play football this year. We'll see where. We will see if I can trust the decisions made by the staff, and we will see where I'm going to play." That's like that's that's pretty wild. No,
That is
like
bold. The Pappies made. I did not hear the full quote. Like I told you, when I saw this content, it was all a Georgia fan sitting next to me on a flight who was hurting so bad. Wow, he was hurting so bad. And I told you his group chat was like dog squad or something like that. They were just sending each other like reaction stuff.
just barking via text,
Just
like
barking.
woof,
Yeah,
woof, woof.
yeah.
So whatever that dude does, he will be like he's a forever player in Athens, right? Like
Yeah.
but
Oh, he's a
he
hero.
may
He's a hero.
like, and I don't even know how to even like talk about evaluating him at the next level. Like, I don't think we're gonna be ready to do that. I thought actually he made some really good plays. He looked very shook, and maybe he's just like, you know what, this was a lot. Like I'm gonna go play somewhere like else. Like there is what will come with this. Like imagine if he comes back and he's on the bench. Like by that quote, that makes it seem like there's something in the works and has been in the works for a while. And again, that's just a snapshot of a quote. Who knows? It's also like you're asking him something where he's literally intoxicated and probably emotionally beyond any place he's ever been in
Yeah.
his entire life. But if he comes back and he has to fight for his starting quarterback job again, which he would have to do,
Yeah.
maybe he'll just say, screw it. I'm going to go play at, I don't know, North Carolina or UCLA or like whatever. Like that, I wouldn't blame him for that. But wow, that is not something we're used to seeing. Transfer
No.
portal quarterback after a title game.
I just kind of like wonder where that there, like you said, there had to be something that made him feel that way. I wonder if there was a conversation. I mean, I doubt you would have that conversation before the national championship. Like, you're literally depending on this guy to win a national championship for you. You're not going to be like, oh, by the way, we've been talking to some guys in the transfer portal. He could have heard it through the grapevine. That could have been the deciding factor there, is that like you hear, I mean, those players talk. There's tons of players that talk, especially the ones that are all in school already, like, and are making these decisions. They definitely talk. I think they're, especially because like DTR is coming back. Like there are guys that are deciding to come back and stay at their schools, and then there's guys that are transferring, and I think there's a lot of them that are having conversations so they know what's real. Like you and I mentioned weeks ago, like it must be so hard to like be able to believe a coach and know what's going on for those recruits, but for the guys in the transfer portal, like that too. Like I mean, we saw it happen with when one quarterback committed someplace else and then another quarterback's like, I'm leaving. They're like, all right, come on this way to Oklahoma. Like it just like there's so much that I feel like there's a lot of conversations going on. Lots of
Not
conversations.
only
And we know how college football works. It's all about like everyone loves to share their inside information.
I don't want to say Georgia wouldn't miss him because I think he proved he can do a lot. But Georgia has some really interesting options
They'd
there.
be fine.
And it's a weird situation where you can lose your quarterback that won the national championship and probably just be like, shoulder shrug. All right. Thank you so much. Good luck, brother. Like,
but I think that's like the nature of college football now. Well, especially because now he's like a householdish name. You can make some money going other places too.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he's a hero in Georgia. That's never going to change. But if he leaves, it's going to be, and the narrative's not going to be that this is his fault. It'll for sure be Kirby's fault because, again, we've seen lots of quarterbacks leave, and he's chosen the wrong one, before.
I think it's just going to be fascinating to watch because I think Georgia has, what does JT Daniels do? Like, what year is he? Like an eighth year senior, by the way? Is he a junior now? Super junior?
I honestly couldn't tell you because the COVID rules have just like shifted everything. I don't know who's in what.
But we
year.
saw already James Cook declare, which is not unexpected.
No, not at all.
Jordan Davis is gone. N'Kobe Dean's going to be gone. They lose pieces in their secondary. George Pickens is an interesting one. They're star freshman tight end. is staying. They've recruited extraordinarily well, pretty much everywhere. So this is, you want to know how good Alabama is? Like, Alabama does this and they make it look normal. I think Georgia will be really good again, but there's some really unique pieces that they're going to lose, and I think that it'll be fascinating to see how they replace them. And
Yeah.
one thing I did talk about today, Paige, on the I'm talking to the NCAA in the interview, and I don't want to do too much of this offseason stuff, but the SEC, like, we might have SEC fatigue. I get it. The ratings weren't great, whatever. But, like, the SEC is fascinating, like, this year. Between Georgia and Alabama, sure. A&M's $30 million recruiting class that's being rumored, which is amazing. Brian Kelly at LSU. Arkansas being really good. Florida with a new head coach. There's some really, like, new faces, like A&M trying to get – like, I'm not saying this just because I'm, that's where the most talent is. People are probably listening to this like, God damn it. Like, I don't want to hear that. But, like, I really am intrigued. Other than Lincoln at USC, which is really fascinating in its own right, the SEC has got some really unique storylines, like, heading into the offseason.
Yeah, well, and I just, like, I've told you this, like, even if we expand the playoff, I don't care if 4 SEC teams end up in. Like, I don't care if that's our top 4. Like, I want them to play the games to get there so we can watch that. But I don't care if that's the case. I mean, yes, I said this game was boring, but, I mean, it was kind of a very strange 3 quarters to watch kickers, because college kickers have their own narrative that is being pushed about them for years, and rightfully so. And here we see on the biggest stage that they're the only people that can get points on the board. That was fascinating. But it was just like classic college football where, like, it doesn't look like it's gonna be good, and then all of a sudden, just chaos. And I still love it. I'm still gonna watch it. I don't care if the SEC dominates.
No, I think there's a distinct possibility that those two teams are not maybe doing that again, but
yeah,
our SEC championship, good luck with that. Mayo bath.
No.
Yeah.
Okay. So here's the thing. So yes, we made a bet on the show that
oh boy,
whoever won bowl season betting, the loser would have to do a mayo bath. So here's the thing. I'm obviously gonna do it. I was the loser. Can I wear, like, a poncho over my clothes, or is this, like, is that cheating? Is that cheating?
Wait, hold on now. Wait, whoa.
I'll get it dumped on my head. No, is that cheating?
When the original mayo bath happened and there was a hat in play, people were upset about the hat. So I think we should ask listeners what they think. Are ponchos allowed?
I'll go full hair. My hair girl is gonna be so pissed. But yeah,
we have to arrange this. We have to arrange this.
We'll film it, obviously.
Can Duke send us mail for this? Like, we'll pump their brand.
Yeah.
This will get dozens of retweets.
If I wear a Duke's Mayo t-shirt, I won't put a poncho over it. How about that?
Yes. No, there we go. So that now we're talking. We need free mayo. I don't like mayo, by the way. This would have been a bad, like Beamer.
I don't mind it, but having it be dumped on my head. We're also gonna have to make it, like, watery, so I don't know. I'm sure my brother's pissed that he went back to school because now he can't be the one to do it. But I'm sure we'll find a volunteer here. By
the way, I blew this. I should have. Speaking of free stuff, I don't know why I didn't wear it. I'm going to wear it next week. When I got home, Easy Post of the Hawaii Bowl sent me one of the Hawaii Bowl champion shirt. Did you see that thing?
Yes.
That they sent me, like, that from the bowl game that never was. I wore it last night. It was like,
okay.
It's a nice.
You'll wear it next episode.
Oh yeah, no, and
we love free stuff.
Yes, of course, we absolutely love free stuff. I don't like mail, but you know what? You give me mail, and I'll put it on my shoulder. I'll tape it to my forehead. I don't care. Like, I'm in. Paige is gonna do a poncholess
mail bath.
Yeah, poncho. Well, come on.
Well, let's just see if
this was not discussed in Indy at all. Like, there had to have been some
I just thought
conversations
about
with
the
God on the
idea of
airplane.
mail. Like, I have to
Wow.
think about, like, I was deep in thought. There was no Wi-Fi on my first flight, so I'm just, like, looking out the window at the rain, being like, I can't believe I have no
Son
mail
of
on
a
my head.
bitch. Yes.
It's like raindrops keep falling on my head.
Yeah, but mail. All right, we can discuss. We can negotiate maybe a potential buyout of this of some kind.
No.
At a
I'm
later
for
date.
sure gonna do it. I'm not gonna back out completely, but
All right, couple other moments before we wrap up. We are tired, and we don't have picks and pints. Although I'm going to give out a few NFL picks because what the fuck? Like we got something to gamble on. I'll do that at
we
the
did
end.
not even talk about this. And Kirby's like,
You
yeah.
don't
By
have
the
to
way,
do
we
anything.
we also. I have to say, the two of us together in a place you can gamble on apps was a horrible, horrible idea. We were complete
Yeah.
degenerates this weekend. That is a lost part of this weekend, that we were like
Yes.
betting on college basketball. I was chasing. It was such a bad situation. So
I,
that is something you made up for it with your future with
I had a
Georgia, but
good.
I certainly did
Yeah.
not.
Well, and I had a
That
good.
was
I
that
had a
hurt.
really good Saturday, with the NFL games and everything, and then I had
No,
a really
you
bad
had it.
Sunday.
Was it
Sunday was the
Sunday?
NFL. Sunday was the NFL day where we bet.
Oh yeah,
What was the
we
most
parlayed like
disgraceful part of the? Oh, we had
what did
Colts money
we?
line.
There were
Oh,
like five. We had the Packers money line.
yes.
That is
There,
such an underrated part of the weekend that you and I looked to. I remember we were hanging out with Kristen and her husband at our hotel
yeah.
bar, and we were watching games, and all of a sudden we're like, "What is happening?" And he was like, "Oh, what did you guys bet today?" We were like, "Oh
The
no."
following items with the scroll out. He's like,
We're just like,
Jesus
"This is
Christ.
bad. This is bad." So yeah, it was
Yes.
not good.
I'm just gonna give out. I just have to give out something. Like you don't have to. We're gonna give out. We have to figure out how gambling is going to be incorporated. But I'll tell you this: I was already
There's
betting on
college
college
basketball.
basketball. Yeah, I fucking lost yesterday. Goddamn Alabama. Is there any other? Let's see if there's any other games going off here. I need action, Paige. Like I'm not ashamed to say it. I'm gonna look right now, and you
Well,
can help
we
me
will
talk
do
me into a
college.
college best bet. But yes,
We can do college basketball bets over the next couple of weeks. Um, but yeah, our gambling this past weekend was on other things was not fantastic.
I
Speaking
just
of
saw
not
something.
fantastic, we'll
Yes.
give your picks at the end so you can reveal the beer. Let's talk
Oh
about
yeah. No,
the
I'm.
cave on. Let's talk about the cave on
Oh.
Thibodeau interview that he gave.
So
Do you
first and
want to go
foremost,
first?
yes, I don't like ripping college kids. I don't like ripping college kids for comments. Thibodeau is the best football player drafted first. Oh, I see. Like that, your throat, you're clear. Is like, I think you've got strong opinions on this.
Yeah, go for it.
What the hell is he talking about? Like he's describing, if you haven't seen it, he's with Joel Klatt, who looks like he wants to eject straight out of his chair through the ceiling into outer space and not do this interview. So I thought Kayvon Thibodeau was talking about Oregon. Because when he says organization, usually you don't commit to a brand. Or at least you didn't before NIL.
Yeah.
They made like NFTs for him and stuff too, which God bless
Yeah.
him. But he's talking about Nike. Like he committed to Nike, which get money, do your thing. But like the backhanded Alabama stuff was kind of like classic. It just felt unnecessary, right? Like that's the
Yes.
easiest way to put it.
And you mentioned that like you don't like to criticize college kids for these comments. This was like a well thought out comment on his end because he had to put a lot of thought into dissing Alabama. But I think the main part was that when he mentioned that he committed to the organization and Nike, I think what he meant by that was that like going to Oregon meant you're like directly affiliated with Nike people who in the future, and they can push him out there as like part of the brand, and people you're associating with are like working for the brands themselves and you have access to all of that. But they didn't do anything to put him out, in my opinion. Like I didn't see anything in terms of like NIL or anything like that to make him a larger part of Nike and like the next Nike guy. And so that's why it was such a weird comment, but also to like come for the education of Alabama, which actually isn't a terrible place to get an education. And I think someone tweeted today that they're like the #1 PR school in the country.
That's hilarious.
And that's just like, it just was a weird take. Also, like, there are a lot of Alabama alumni that work in the sports industry, whether it be media, whether it be in business in terms of this, agents, all kinds of those things. They work with Alabama guys. It just seemed like a weird take. And I don't know. It was an unnecessary thing, and I found it weird coming from a guy who went to Oregon. Like, if this was like another SEC player, I'd totally get it. But I feel like it was very strange to go from Oregon to that, especially considering what Oregon's done the last couple of years. If this was years ago and Chip Kelly was still there, they'd been fine. But like,
yeah,
what?
He actually he is pretty insightful. Like, I've heard him talk about other things, and he's clearly deep. Like that, he doesn't talk like a normal college athlete in a, like really good ways. Like he did an NFT with Nike, which was like their way of dealing with him. Like even an NFT for a college kid is kind of like out there. So
yeah,
I just when he talked about like I could have gone there and I could have gone there and won championships, but I came here and partnered with this organization. That's an interesting comment. Like
that's also a red flag.
Well, it's
you're scouting this guy.
Well, it's like, it just was an argument that like a discussion that just did like loops and loops and loops. And again, good for him. He's going to go in the probably top 2 in the draft. He is awesome, but it's a weird time to be shitting on Alabama. And God, he would have been awesome at Alabama. By the way, it would have been. Jeez. I mean, it worked out for him at Oregon. He's gonna be a number 1 or 2 pick. Maybe I would take him number 1, but it just seems strange. And again, Joel Klatt's general like disbelief of the whole thing was actually kind of amazing. And him just trying to be like, how am I supposed to answer this without alienating my guest or anyone watching this? And there's not a good answer to that. So
it's always hard to do, but I think it was just a weird thing to come out of today.
It is. All right, we'll wrap it up because again, moving forward, we're going to do off-season storylines. We're going to do we're going to preview teams. We're going to do gambling content. We're going to do everything else. I will end with some picks, but I know
we can do some fun NFL gambling because it's really not something we have to cover on a professional level, so we can get. Not that this isn't very professional, what we're doing here.
Even less professional. But favorite moments of the season. Favorite moments of the season for you. What stands out? Do you have any that jump out to you?
I would say moments, probably, I think it was the Fox game at Wisconsin where they did the jump around. That was like the first time very early in the season, we had seen fans back in.
It's a great one.
A stadium, and it was at full capacity, and just like probably one of the cooler moments. Kind of like made me get emotional about it because I think that's what makes the sport so great. Are the fans and the pageantry of college football is a huge part of it. So that I will say is probably one of my favorite moments from the season. I don't know. I mean, this is so bad, but live betting, Oregon or Stanford to beat Oregon, that was probably a highlight. What else? What other things? I think I don't know. Like the whole thing for me was really great. Like I have to say this season was really fun. Like despite like all of the things we've gone through, I feel like it's been kind of a crazy year for college football, and I feel like it's just the beginning of the chaos, but I love every minute of it. All of the little intricacies of transfer portal, NIL, everything. I will say it was kind of cool to watch Ohio State lose to Michigan and see Harbaugh rebound a little.
That was cool. That was cool. You brought up a really good point, like, and it gave me chills, like fans and stands. It's normal again, but it really, at the start of the year, it wasn't, right? And, like that Florida State Notre Dame game was electric. Like how long that feels, I'm off with doesn't that? Like I'm off with my equilibrium here. Like that feels like it was played 2 seasons ago. Remember when Alabama beat the shit out of Miami? Like Derek King was still playing? Like that feels like it was 5 years ago.
I mean, also the video of the Texas kicker's family watching him kick the game-winning field goal and jump on the field. Like, those moments, like, I'm glad those are back. And those, no matter what happens with transfer portal, NIL, playoff expansion, anything, those are the things that, like, we'll remember from years to come that are the genuine core of what college football is all about.
it feels weird now because they lost like 100 football games, but Iowa beating Penn State in the moment was cool for an Iowa guy. Like that was that was one of the more thrilling wins I can remember. And I just think this was, like you mentioned, this was a year where like week to week there was something, right? Like it was something like, and I gotta say the other one, Baylor, Oklahoma State, Big 12 championship game. You know, I don't know if it was one of my favorite, but like the most thrilling, the stakes of literally a potential playoff spot being a foot away. It's hard to beat that kind of drama. So it was, we say this every year, I think, and we ended up with a rematch in a game with like the second lowest rating since 2005. I don't care.
Me neither.
It was a fun ass year. It was a fun ass year of football. And normally at this point, Paige, it's weird too. I'm sick of football. I'm actually, I'm like ready to be done. I miss it today. Like
I'm so sad.
I'm normally like, I don't want to talk about football. I don't want to tweet about football. Like I'm hurting without football. Yeah. I could do that again right now. It's like earlier than expected.
Well, and to your point, we did have a rematch at the national championship, but I was like, I know you're not on TikTok, but I made a TikTok a couple weeks ago about this, that like, I have to bring up my TikTok. Follow me on TikTok, please. And that's Sports Page. Okay, anyway. We at the beginning of the year, if you would have told me Spencer Rattler was going to transfer to South Carolina, Brian Kelly was going to leave Notre Dame for LSU, and Michigan was going to make the playoff, like what? Like this year was so chaotic in terms of, and Lincoln Riley leaving, like all of the things, there's so much that like you just didn't anticipate that is like not even related to the field of play. Like that I mean, it's just like, okay, what in the world is going on? And I feel like we're going to get a lot more of that over the next couple of months, even in the off season. But yes, I am sad there's no games. That's tough.
Also, I will point this out. We are embarking on an off season. This is our last off season without the NCAA football game.
That's right.
I want everyone to, the football game will not be released this year. It is planned to be released in 2023. Mm-hmm. This is the last off season without it. I thought about that today. And I want to, EA, let's talk. Come on. Let's get some exclusives. Like, please.
Yeah.
I can start to do season simulations again, which I think was probably before your time at Bleacher Report. Do you remember these at all?
Barely, but I was on programming, so I don't know that. I mean, I probably programmed them.
You were probably still in college, Paige. Let's be honest. I'm old.
Speaking of my college, shout out Jed Fish in the transfer portal right now.
Yeah, doing some work. Your basketball team's pretty good too. Also,
so excited for basketball season.
If you are ever around Paige and there's an alcoholic beverage or two, and you'd like to talk about Arizona basketball, and you have strong thoughts about Sean Miller, maybe on the negative side, I will warn you, maybe not to utilize those thoughts until you are with another human. It's the surest thing.
It is like death, taxes, and Paige getting riled up over the Arizona basketball scandal after a few drinks.
Oh, yeah.
You can easily do it. And what's funny is the people that know me well enough in the media that are like actual friends are like the funniest Paige moments are when we bring this up and then they get me riled up again. And I know this is happening and I can't help myself. But do you want to give the people some NFL picks
I do.
Before you go? Because you got to tell us your beer, right?
Yes. Here's my beer. It is a Juicier Than Thou. This is a brewer I've not had. Heretic. And this was a gift to me. It is a New England style IPA with mango. I don't need to be drinking IPAs right now, to be clear. This is a delightful beer, though. I don't normally like New England IPAs. Usually have a little bit more like thump to them. Not usually my style, though. I'll drink anything. And but it was good. This was very good. This was tolerable. But now I need to go on like a kind of a cold stop. It is my birthday this weekend, though, so I'm sure something will be flowing if I don't have COVID. So, okay, NFL. Now, are you first and foremost? There's a playoff game on a Monday. That's kind of screwing me up That's just odd. But whatever, we'll do it. So I've got a couple of picks. You can tell me if you like them or not, because I'm just throwing this on you randomly. So
you're spitballing.
Okay, well, this one's actually good. I didn't even plan this. I like San Fran plus
Don't
3.
Don't call it San Fran.
Wait, why? What is that?
That is like the biggest. Like, no, you're not supposed to call it San Fran.
What's wrong with San Fran?
At least you didn't call it Briscoe either.
Well, that's lame. I'm just trying to save time. San Fran, is that like something like an outsider does?
Yeah.
All right,
that's like calling our public transportation the BART. But anyway, so you like San Francisco, the 49ers.
I like the 49ers in Santa Clara. I like them plus 3 over Dallas. I think they're going to win that game.
Okay.
I hope
that happens.
I like the Rams minus 3.5. That line's come down a little bit over Arizona. I think they're going to bounce back. It's kind of weird. I'm betting on the 2 teams that we watched play last week. And then I think Cincinnati, your favorite football player, Joe Burrow, I think they're going to end the whole Vegas thing. Minus 5.5 over Las Vegas. I'm actually excited for these games. Again, NFL is good. I enjoy the NFL. It's something to bet on, but I'm still weirded out by the whole Monday night game. But I'll gladly take it. Do you have any NFL thoughts going into any of these games?
No, I'm excited to watch and not feel like fatigue from having to watch like a full Saturday of college football, because that's usually the hard part. A lot of people don't understand that when you spend 14 hours watching college football and then the next day there's more football. I know people I don't, trust me, I like it, okay? But it's when it's your job, sometimes it can be hard to watch a full slate of that. I just focus on the red zone stuff.
Agreed.
No, I'm just excited to watch and enjoy it and hopefully have the Niners be successful.
Go San Fran.
Oh, no.
I'm sorry. I didn't know that was the thing. Now I'm going to...
Now you know. Now
I'm going to tap into it. All right. So what's coming up? We're going to do all sorts of off-season content. We'll have gambling. We're going to see where it goes. Honestly, if you guys have suggestions for things you'd like to see, but we will start revealing our top 20-ish 5, top 5,
yes.
top 11. Who knows how many we're going to do.
Start looking into teams. Once people are finally on rosters and we know who's playing where.
We may do some draft stuff. If you're into that sort of thing, we'll do some of that. And for now, we are going to go detox and sleep. So for Paige, I am Adam. We will talk to you guys next week.